Good evening, everyone, and welcome into Season 2, Episode 6 of the Forge Podcast. Brought to you by Shotgun Sports Network of Alabama of the Shotgun Sports Network. My name is Ryan Messer. We've got a lot to get into tonight. We've got a lot to cover with the Bulls and the Squadron, as well as the Legion as well. And then we also are less than a week from the kickoff of the UFL second season and the fourth season of the Stallions. So we've got a lot to get into there. We've got the roster filled. We're just days away from kickoff, so we've got a lot to get into. Before we get too far, I want to thank you guys, as always, for watching, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or if you're listening to us on Spotify, Audible, Apple Podcast, iHeart, or wherever you're hearing or seeing this. But we also have to say thank you to Blue Spring Living Water, who has kept us hydrated for over a year now, and they continue to help us out in keeping us hydrated with their naturally minerally enriched water that is bottled right at the source, so there's no risk of contamination. And you can find it at your local grocer or get it delivered right to your home or office by going to bluespringlivingwater.com. And this is Season 2, Episode 6 of the Forge Podcast. We're going to start things off with the Birmingham Bulls, who surprisingly had no transaction over the past week. But they did take on the Macon Mayhem in Macon this Thursday. And it started out with Bailey Birkin in the net for the Mayhem and Lottie in for the Bulls. The Bulls started things off with a power play just a minute 20 into the game for a hook. Kip Ledzianko was able to capitalize just 1:39 in. And Carson Rose wound up finding himself in the box shortly after for a slash. Midway through the penalty kill there, the Mayhem were penalized for boarding. Then in the second period, the Bulls went on the power play 3 times without capitalizing. In fact, they barely outshot the Mayhem even with that, just 16-11. So just rough playing there in the second, but then in the third, the Bulls went back on the power play just 2:58 into the period there for a hook, and they still didn't capitalize on that one either. But Macon would go on to tie things up with just under 5 to play, but in overtime did not last long, as Colton Olnick would walk it off with a goal just 31 seconds into the overtime period. Then they took a trip down to Florida to take on the Pensacola Ice Flyers, where they had Brody Clays in the net for the Flyers and Stewie in the net for the Bulls. And this was a very tense game to start with, because this is the game that Jamie Dorsey wound up getting suspended in. The team that he got suspended against there, as Brody Clays wound up taking that hit by him there a few weeks back. And then Jamie Dorsey just immediately dropped gloves in the first second of play. After the first face-off, after that hit on Clays, it was just a very tense situation there. The that wound up earning him an 8-game suspension. So no wonder it was so tense for them there. But then with 3 to play in the opening period, the Bulls wound up going on a power play for a hold. And then in the second, the Flyers wound up scoring just 120 in. Then the Bulls wound up going on back on the penalty kill just a minute later for too many men. 8 minutes later, 8 minutes following that successful penalty kill, the Bulls went back on the power play for a hook. Troy McTavish was actually able to capitalize on that one just midway through. And then they were back on the power play with just less than a minute into the second for a hold. They weren't able to capitalize on that, but Kip Ledzianko was able to score just prior to the 6-minute mark of the third period to take the lead. Kyler Matthews was charged with a hold just past the midway point of the third. And then after killing another penalty, the Flyers pulled Clays with just 2 left to play. That was successful as they wound up scoring in just a minute later to send them to overtime. In overtime, Kip Ledzianko wound up scoring just 150 in the period, or the overtime period, to win it for the Birmingham Bulls. On Saturday, they went back at it again with Clays in the net for the Flyers and Stewie in for the Bulls. Colton Olnick was able to get things started just 2:12 into the game with a goal of his own. And then Phil Ledzianko was able to score one with just under 4 left to play in the opening period. And then in the second, the Bulls wound up going on a power play just 2:09 into the period for a trip. And then just prior to the expiration of that, they went on a 5-3 man advantage for an interference. But with just under 8 to play, in the second, the Flyers wound up committing a hook, resulting in Kyler Matthews dropping gloves with Lucas Jurosic, resulting in a 4-3 advantage for the Bulls. Nearly a minute following the teams going back to full strength, Andrew Ballant found the back of the net and for what would be the winning goal there. The third started off with Nikita Kozarev finding himself in the box for a trip, and then they were able to capitalize just seconds before the penalty expired. Then Trevor Thurston wound up getting charged with a hold just a minute later as things got even more physical, and they were able to capitalize on that one as well just 22 seconds into the power play there. Then that's when things really got heated as just 11 minutes left to play. The Bulls won a 5-3 man advantage for an interference and a slash. They did not capitalize, but then with just 5:47 left to play, former Birmingham Bull Matt Wisner was called for a major for an elbow and a double major for a game misconduct. Then just a minute later, Colton Olnick was able to find the net again to put it away for the Bulls. So really good playing by the Bulls this back stretch of the season as we get ready for the playoffs, which we did clinch on Friday. So glad to see this team yet again making the President's Cup playoffs. As it stands right now, the Peoria Rivermen are in first place, followed by the Huntsville Havoc in second. Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs are in third, followed by the Fayetteville Marksmen. They're in fourth. And then Birmingham is sitting in fifth place. And then they were followed by the Knoxville Ice Bears and the Evansville Thunderbolts. Quad City is in eighth place right now, but can clinch this weekend with a win or a make and loss. So, great big weekend for some Bulls hockey this weekend, and just the league as a whole. a lot at stake. Um, Coming up this weekend, they are going up on Thursday to take up I-65 to take on the Havoc on Thursday there. And then they are coming back home on Friday and Saturday to take on the Fayetteville Marksmen. So great play there, and can't wait to. We will be out there on Saturday night to see the Bulls take on the Marksmen. Switching things over to the Birmingham Squadron, who didn't really have any transactions this past week, but they did take on the Texas Legends on Saturday. Things started out with both teams going back and forth before the Squadron wound up going on a 9-point run. The Legends did get a single three midway through the opening quarter before the Squadron did wind up going on another 10-point run. The complete domination in the first quarter set the Squadron up with a 22-point lead going into the second. The Squadron did maintain a commanding lead throughout a majority of the second quarter, but the Legends did wind up cutting away at that lead in the final minutes before halftime. Going into the locker room, they were 57-43. Then they did come out of the locker room going back and forth again, and the Squadron did start to stretch their lead back through the back end of the third quarter, and they were up 85-57 going into the fourth. Birmingham took that momentum into the final quarter as they wound up controlling the game and managed the clock to wind up winning that game 113-79. But the biggest story for this game was that we had 6 players in double digits, and 2 of them actually wound up having double-doubles. So such a great time to see this team get hot. Unfortunately, a little too late. Got really good late, but they do. This is the final weekend of the season, as tonight they are taking on the Rio Grande Vipers, and then on Friday and Saturday they will go to Kissimmee, Florida, to take on the Osceola Magic. So thank you to the Squadron organization for letting us cover them this past year, the past 2 years actually. So hopefully we'll see some better stuff earlier in the season come next year. Switching things over to the Legion FC, on Wednesday they wound up taking on Little Rock Rangers to open up the U.S. Open Cup. Things started with Birmingham controlling possession of the majority of the first half, with them in the 24th minute. Luca Dorado was given a penalty shot that wound up getting saved. Roman Torres was shown a yellow card there in the 39th minute. And then just before halftime, the Rangers wound up getting shown a yellow card as well. But coming out of halftime, the Rangers were able to score just in the 48th minute. But then Birmingham worked hard attacking the offensive zone throughout the remainder of the second half, but they just couldn't get anything in, getting eliminated in the U.S. Open Cup in the first round. So unfortunately, we did lose out in the U.S. Open Cup. I think we've got some other stuff coming up this season, some new tournament coming in this season. So we'll have to see what that details. But we also did take on Detroit City FC up there in the Motor City. Things got started in the 20th minute with Detroit City scoring there. And then Ronaldo Damus was able to equalize it with a goal in the 27th minute. Then in the 33rd minute, Detroit City was able to score again just off of a rebound. And in the second half, Birmingham did press the offensive zone there. And eventually Birmingham wound up scoring on an own goal by Detroit City to tie it up there. And Birmingham kept pressing, but they wound up drawing in full time. So as it stands right now, Birmingham sits at 0-1-2 on the season. And they are ninth in the Eastern Conference of the USL Championship. They are heading up to Pittsburgh this weekend to take on the Riverhounds. So wish them the best of luck up there. And switching things over to the Birmingham Stallions. The final roster was released this past Thursday, and we have a lot of things to talk about. So, start off with the quarterbacks. We're going to go by position players here. Case Kukis, of course, former Philadelphia Star and Memphis Showboat, wound up facing his teammate Alex Magoo in the inaugural USFL Championship. So great to see him on board officially. Matt Corral made a big name of himself there at Ole Miss, and then moved around the NFL a bit, and then started a couple games last season. Actually, was the game one starter last season. So, but great fill in, great to put in different packages, whatever. So, great to see him back. And then, of course, last but not least, Alex Magoo played for the Stallions in the 22 and 23. Went to the Packers as a quarterback and then wound up transitioning over into a wide receiver. Came back this year to Coach Holtz. A lot of controversy there with him, whether he was going to be a wide receiver or if he was going to be a quarterback. And we finally realized that he was going to be a quarterback. Then switching over to the wide receiver room, we have Deon Cain. We know his speed and his power. In 23, he wound up having 2 consecutive games with kick sixes. So, such a great receiver to have on our team. And then Jalen Camp is a newcomer. Former Georgia Tech wide receiver, spent a lot of time with the Jags, Texans, Steelers, Panthers, and Browns. So great to have him on board. Davion Davis, most people know Davion from the 23 season. He did go to the XFL with the Roughnecks and was released in 23 before coming to the Stallions. But he also spent time throughout the years with the Vikes, the Texans, the Browns, the Cards, and the Commanders. Then we also have Cade Johnson, South Dakota State product. Spent a lot of time with the Seahawks before finally coming this year to the Stallions. Then, of course, we have Amari Rogers coming back for his 3rd season. So great to see him back. Then we also have Austin Watkins Jr. Came to Birmingham off of a trade from the Showboats in 23 and helped win the championship. He also spent time with the Niners, the Bucks, the Rough Riders of the CFL, the Browns, and the Eagles. So, great to have him back. And then Marlon Williams, of course, one of the core players of this Coach Holtz team, coming back for his 4th season. And we speaking of that, our running backs are all returning. CJ Marable, another core piece, coming back for his 4th season as well. Ricky Person's coming back for his 3rd season now. Hard to believe. Great season last year. And then Larry Roundtree III came to the Stallions last season. And he was great down the stretch when we needed him to cycle him in to get some rest for Ricky and CJ there. And going to tight ends, they're all coming back. LaMichael Petway, Jordan Thomas, and of course, last but not least, Jay Sternberger. He is one of the leaders of this team. A lot of controversy with him this past. There's always controversy when it comes to Jay Sternberger, but really cool dude. Very controversial at times, but hey, what's a little football without a little controversy, And then going to special teams, we've got everybody coming back except for a kicker. Ryan Langan and Colby Wadman are both back, but Harrison Mevis is coming in as the kicker. He was a star kicker at Mizzou wound up setting a school and SEC record for a kick in 23 for a 61-yarder. So great to have them here. Great roster that we've seen so far. Of course, we got a bunch of people staying with the offensive line and our DBs. But, of course, JoJo, Cole Schneider. We could just go on and on and on talking about these guys. But, of course, we found out yesterday that DeMarcus Gates is coming back as well. So, great roster here for the Stallions. Like I said, I could just keep going on, but we don't want to drag this episode on too far. But switching things over, we do have the game this Sunday. The Stallions play this coming up Sunday at DC, taking on the Defenders. There will be a watch party at the Finnick. I know there's more around in Hunts. I think there's one in Huntsville and one in Montgomery as well. So make sure you guys get out there. If you're not going to the game in DC, I know there's a lot of people that are. But great to see the fan base is just getting revved up right here as the season's getting started. But to close here, we have a big week coming up with the UFL starting, getting ready to kick off. This is the last week of the NBA G League, unfortunately, for the Squadron there. And another big week for the SPHL and USL this weekend. So, but that's all we got for this week. Y'all have a great night. Peace.